My name is Betsy Atwell, and I'm a therapist at Kindling Wellness in Evansville, Wisconsin. Today, I'm answering the question of what's the difference between a therapist and a life coach. Um, this is maybe a little bit loaded because I know that there are a lot of great people out there who are practicing as coaches, and I don't want to give the impression that I think everyone is a problem. Honestly, there are a lot of therapists out there that aren't so great either. But one big difference that I think people should know about is that there is an accountability process for therapists. We have to go through a lot of training and supervision before we can even get our licensures. So, a therapist will at least have a graduate degree. Sometimes psychologists might use the term therapist, and in that case, they have a doctorate degree. Um, and then we also have to do thousands of hours of supervised practice. So, where somebody with a great deal of expertise is watching over us, looking at our documentation, making sure that we're taking good care of our clients and that we have appropriate boundaries with our clients. And that's all before we even get our license. So, there's lots of opportunities for us to kind of make sure that if somebody's not well enough to be in our field, that they're not getting into our field in the first place. And then once we do have our license, so every therapist is going to have a license from their state. Make sure yours does. If they don't, that's maybe false advertising and pretty dangerous for you to work with that person. But every therapist should have a state license in whatever state they're practicing in. And uh, each state has their accountability processes, but basically, if there's a therapist who's practicing unethically or violating the law, harming their clients in some way, there's a reporting process, and that therapist can lose their license, be put under strict surveillance by the licensing board, and potentially even go to prison, depending on the severity of what they've done, and that will prevent them from ever practicing again legally in any other states as well. So there's an accountability process. That's the key thing I want you to hear. Therapists can do harm, therapists can be problematic, but at least there's a way to report them and make sure that they're not hurting other people. Almost all states don't have something like that for life coaches. So there's not like a national standard for what it takes to become a life coach. There's not usually any sort of degree requirement, but just kind of different trainings that different groups of people put together. And there's not like a lot of standards or oversight for what's involved for that. And so, A, it's a lot easier for people who are unwell themselves to get into the field, and then B, there's no accountability process if they are harming people. So, generally, you're going to be safer going to a licensed therapist than to a life coach. But if you've got one of the good life coaches, have at it. That's great. I think we need all the help we can get in our field, and I definitely support that. But just, yeah, be keeping an eye out for, what training do they have and what degrees do they have? Really, you're allowed to ask, and providers are actually required to tell you what their training and their certifications are in every state.